Welcome to the Adventure Mechanics. I'm Chandler,
I'm Devin.
and today we'll be talking about Arctic Eggs, the first-person egg cooking sim? I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah, it definitely has some strange wiggle mechanics for using, to cook eggs. That seems really strange to say, but it's focused around one mechanic, which is cooking eggs. And in order to cook eggs in this giant frying pan you have, all you can do is wiggle it. There's no heat source. The heat is moving the egg around the pan. And that's the entire core mechanic of this game. It's very strange.
And flipping the pan to flip the eggs over, because you got to cook them on each side.
Yes, you have to cook most things on both sides. Not everything, because some things you don't actually want to cook, but we'll get into that when we talk about a little bit of the game in more detail. Before we dive into that, Arctic Eggs was initially made for a game jam called Big Mode Jam 2023, which ran from November 26th to December 15th of that year. It was made by a team under the name The Water Museum, but it included the Water Museum, Cocky Duty, also known as, hold on, CD Bunker 2, and A.B. Marnie, with music by Cameron Ginex, or Ginex? Ginex. I am mangling it. I apologize in advance. It was made using Godot, and after the game jam was over, they kept working on it, and it released a little over 9 months later, or 6 months later, or something like that. I can't math right now. But it released on May 16th of 2024 on both itch.io and Steam, and it was published by Critical Reflex on Steam's in particular. So, let's talk about the story. Yeah, it's something.
For anyone who's not familiar with this game, please go familiarize yourself. If you are not, go to the Steam page, look at it, or the itch page, go look at it. Because I saw this initially on SkillUp's games coming out roundup, and I was so intrigued. And then when I read the Steam page, I just was so compelled. I had to get it. And then about 20 minutes into playing, I was like, oh my god, I have to send this to Chandler. It's so weird. It's so bizarre.
100%. And yeah, when I first played it, I was like, what is this game? And then I kept playing it, and it just kept coming up. What is this game? It's very bizarre.
So as we get into the story, just keep that in mind, that this is strange, but the best kind of strange. A wonderful kind of strange. My favorite kind of strange.
Yeah. So it's set in a dystopian city of some sort in an indeterminate future, at least according to the final release. I think in the game jam it started in Antarctica in 2090 or something like that. But that's irrelevant because the game jam is not the final game. But you start off in what is called the poultry pantry, which is a bunch of chickens in cages. And the first person you see is one of the guards. And all that he says to start off the game is, can you cook an egg, or can you fry an egg on top of Mount Everest? And then it's the cooking tutorial. Like, what? Why start a game like that? But that's how the story starts. You kind of get, after that, it kind of gives you the context of you were trying to escape the city, and that's not something you can do. So all you have now is the ability to cook, and now you have to go cook eggs for everybody in the city. Go to it, is effectively what he says.
Yeah, if you want, he kind of also says, if you want to leave the city legitimately, if you really want to leave, then you're going to have to ask the Saint of Six Stomachs for permission. And to even get in to see the Saint, you find out you have to cook for all the other people in the city to even get there.
Yeah. So once you're done with going out into that, you go into the city and you interact with everybody, and that's about all that you can really do. It'll when you first enter the city balconies. I don't know how else to describe it, but like you're in the high-rise area, and there's sky above and just darkness below, and you're on balconies and you wander around talking to people, trying to find the people that are hungry so you can cook for them. They have some really strange tastes, to put it lightly. So you go around cooking, and once you're done with an area, you can go to a different area, like the fish market, or the prison, or a club, or the toilet aquarium under the sea. Yes. Yeah, I did say that. No, I'm not going crazy. Why do you ask?
It is actually a place.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. So after you've fed enough people of the city, you can finally go talk to the Saint of the Six Stomachs. And that's a challenge of just cooking more and more eggs for each stomach, which is very climactic, but very, very aggravating when you first play it. I'm going to say that right now. If you make it through the challenge, the screen cuts to an airplane flying away from the city, and you end up at the top of Mount Everest, we presume, with somebody else who was in the plane with you, and the plane crashed up there, and you walk up to the peak of Mount Everest to find a chicken. And that's how the game ends.
You pet the chicken, and then the game ends.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot the pet the chicken was the very climax
of the
game.
Very important. Very important that the very end of the game is petting the chicken. The person with you when you crash, she is a woman who has been around basically everywhere you have been in the city, and she has been asking people, "Hey, can you fry an egg on Mount Everest? I want to find out if we could do that. Like, you think I could go do that? Like, I think it would be really cool to do it. I'd be the first person." So this is like a common conversation you see every place you go where she's at. So that's why she's there with you, is that she's there to fry on both sides, as usual.
I got nothing on that. Yeah, talking to people is the only other thing you do besides cooking.
And it's amazing.
It is 100% amazing. Very much a dialogue that I want to say is deep, but I'm not necessarily certain is deep.
I think it's pretty philosophical. I mean, sometimes it's just comedic. And sometimes it has a strange verisimilitude with real life, in a way that's like, oh, huh, okay. But I think at times when it's trying to, like, there's some like pretentious moments, like, that I think that's on purpose. Like, the joke is that it's kind of like this super pretentious philosophical kind of introspection. But some of the things that are a little bit more simple, even though they're jokey, I'm like, no, I feel like that's actually pretty deep. Like, yeah, like yeah, you're right. Gives me something to think about.
The liquid ice was the one that got me.
Oh god, yeah.
Liquid ice. That
room
just
temperature ice.
Yeah, room temperature ice. That just hits
room
different.
Temperature ice. Then there's the. I know that the screen capture is on like the Steam page for this, like all over the place. Where it's the woman that's like, I don't need sex. Government fucks me every day. And her companion at the table is just like, I feel a little uncomfortable right now.
I forgot about that line. Isn't that in The Club?
Yep, that's in The Club.
Yeah. Yeah, that line hit me, and then I got instant nausea from the talking with the club goers who are dancing, because the camera follows their head in a very nauseating way. Oh.
I thought that was amazing, because it is kind of like, oh, that is kind of what it's like to talk to somebody in a club. Like, whether or not they're moving, like, it's so loud and so disorienting. It's just like, I don't understand. What are you talking about, dude? That was a great choice.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, most of the conversations are, I want to say, quasi-philosophical. I don't quite think they're fully philosophical, but sometimes they edge into being truly philosophical.
I mean, I think that depends on what philosopher you're talking to. You know?
The people that want to fry eggs on Mount Everest, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, this seems like a reasonable question to ask. We're just going to take it to the extreme.
I guess. which I find that kind of bizarre because most of the art style is basically focused on like the cold and like everything being really cold. Like even in the club, it still feels kind of cold, but it also has like the PS1 era like texture pinching in it, which is done for intentional effect as opposed to, not being able to round very well on a 32-bit processor. So yeah, there's that too. Like, you think they would be kind of comfortable with the idea of cooking in the cold. And I guess like the altitude's the only thing that matters.
I mean, there's the altitude, there's the wind. There's a lot of environmental things. But that I was interpreting that as being the question. Like, this is like one of the most extreme places on the planet. Like, could you just make a normal breakfast at the top of this incredibly high mountain?
Okay, fine. Yeah, I could see that. But I still think a lot of the stuff that's said in here is just absolutely fucking bizarre. There's no getting around that.
I mean, you do talk to the person that's like, oh, I'm doing a time lapse of rotting meat in my apartment. Hopefully it'll be worth it. It's like, okay, dude, thumbs up, walks away. Oh, and then the people with the, hey, that chicken breast you gave me was full of salmonella. And the person's like, oh, did you cook it? Yeah, just a quick pan sear on either side. Nothing fancy for me. And the person's like, And then the guy's like, you should really, like, be careful about, giving contaminated meat to strangers. And she's like, I've known you for 7 years.
That was just bizarre.
There are a lot of bizarre things. I mean, there's also the spy dolphins, from the Argentinian War that are bored because there's no wars anymore. That was a little bit strange, to say the least. They have apparatus, they're wearing an apparatus that allows them to talk, because the woman asking about, hey, can you fry an egg on man first? She even goes and asks the dolphins, like, hey, do you think you could do this? And they, after you feed the whale, an egg, the dolphin gives a very beautiful poem in response. Not sure what it means, but it was quite lovely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you meet a lot of people who are related to people who knew the Saint of Six Stomachs, or at least, someone related to them. And then you meet the Saint's father, because the Saint won't let his father die. He's been replacing him bit by bit. Flesh parts with metal parts.
Oh my god. That dude on the dock was the father of the Saints of the Six Stomachs?
That's the father of the Saint of Six Stomachs. Because he directly mentions it, but then he also says, like, oh, well, I still know my son is in there, even though he's
replaced.
Mostly this, yeah, he's like, the flesh isn't there anymore, and he says that, his son won't let him die. He's been replacing him piece by piece.
I didn't make that connection.
And that he'd like you to cook for him before they take his tongue, and he can't taste anything anymore.
I totally missed that. Shows how much I was paying attention. To be fair,
there's a lot of depth in this game.
Yeah, the blowfish was introduced at the docks, and
yes,
good lord, that is one of the most infuriating things to try and cook.
You just kind of like let it hop a little bit. It's no problem.
Yeah, but then it always just hops out of the damn pan. Yeah,
I had more problems with the cockroaches. Seasoning that runs is terrible, awful. At least the cigarettes don't run off the pan.
Yeah, fair.
And bullets are just a hazard.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if you can just knock them off the pan immediately, and then you'll never see them.
Yep,
again.
you can just you can just drop them off the side,
and they'll still come back because for some reason the people that want to cook with bullets think it's extra spicy or something.
Oh, they think it's funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's what they say.
They're just prison, like, okay. Yeah, in the prison, they're just like, yeah, it's just for fun.
Yep. So, some of the things, let's see all the things that you can cook. Besides the egg, there's the big fish, the tinned fish, the blowfish, the ice cubes.
One ray.
Oh, yeah, the one manta ray. The ice cubes.
Yep.
The beer.
Cigarettes,
beer. Cockroaches. I feel like that's the majority of them. I'm sure I don't have all of them, but
a weird square of mystery meat.
Oh yeah, the mystery cube that you have to flip on all six sides to cook.
All six sides. And it kind of wiggles and is unsettling.
That's putting it lightly. So yeah, like 10 or 12 things.
Oh, bacon. Bacon.
Oh, forgot the bacon.
We can't forget bacon. Yep, bacon.
Which is surprisingly easy. A lot of things move even after they're cooked, which is really challenging. Yeah. But
the big fish when they're still flopping around when they're half cooked is really sad.
Right? Oh, yeah. It's amazing that they made so much of this game around one mechanic. Because it is a one mechanic game. I guess technically you can smoke a cigarette and see how many people are left hungry in the current zone you're in, but that's not really a mechanic in my mind. And to be perfectly fair, I didn't even know that was a thing until I was going to the Saint of the Six Stomachs. So
the guard at the door to the Saint tells you that if you need to know, because the guy at the door says, well, you can't get in unless you feed 27 hungry people. But if you ever wonder how many people you fed, you can always smoke a cigarette. I find that helps me all the time. So, like, you hit the button to smoke a cigarette, and it just will tell you how many people you've fed, so that you'll know if you've gotten to, 27, which is the minimum you need to get into the end game gauntlet.
Yeah, I just went in and out of zones, and it shows how many people are remaining hungry in the current area, and that's what I was going off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're in the main hub, it'll tell you how many people you've total.
Yeah, I was doing it the dumb way, so that's why I say that's barely a mechanic in my mind. Because I didn't see it.
I mean, I barely used it. Yeah, I mean, I barely used it, but I also was having such a good time, like, talking to people and seeing what people had to say. I figured I was probably going to 100% it before I went into to see the Saint anyway.
Talking to everybody is pretty much mandatory, I think. Because you don't know who's hungry and who's not. You have to talk to everybody to figure that out. And sometimes it's like, oh, this person isn't actually hungry, and then you're suddenly cooking like 13 cigarettes and an egg for them. I don't know why. But that's one of the people that's cooking. That's the one that made me realize that I'm going to enjoy this game, because it's very absurd. And that's like the fourth person I cooked for, I think.
Yeah, we didn't mention in the fish market the fish that you can stab, and it gives you a big lore drop about the state of the world.
What?
Did you not do that?
No.
In the fish market? There's a fish on a table that has the little question mark like you get when you go to talk to somebody. And when you click on it, you have like a knife hovering over the fish. And as you stab it into the fish, text appears on the screen telling you about the magnetic pole shift that is happening, where there are all these issues as the poles flip from, north going to south and south going to north.
Oh, that's fucking
This has
dark.
caused issue. Yeah.
I never
It's wild.
Said fish. I missed the lore drop.
I interpreted that as the lore explanation for like why they're in Antarctica ? Because I just thought it was Antarctica. I don't know that anyone says that in the game. I don't remember. It's been a while, but
it's explicit in the demo, but not in the game itself.
Yeah. So I just was like assuming it was Antarctica, but it's also like, oh, so this is what's going on. Like the world is just a little bit wacky right now because the poles are in the middle of shifting, and this is causing ecological disaster. So, okay, good to know. There was also apparently a big war, and they were using mutant dolphins.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, military people in this world, to put it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, half the people you see are in uniform and carrying guns. That's why I call it a dystopia, but, yeah, some of the things people say kind of reinforce that assumption.
I think it's pretty explicitly a dystopia. One of the moments that I thought I was trying to think of one earlier, but I couldn't until just now, when we were talking about like, oh, is that like kind of philosophical? There is one military guy in the hub area with the catwalks and stuff, where he talks about the flamingos that were banned. But they were around all the time when he was a kid, and he and his friends on the way home from school would pick up their feathers and drop them down off the side of the rail to watch them go to the water below. And he talks about how he misses it, but the fact that he can think of it so fondly maybe means that he enjoyed it to the utmost, even though he can never have a moment like that again.
Yeah. I remember that conversation.
And that's like one of those where I'm like, this could be kind of funny because it is a little absurd. We're talking about flamingos, and the fact that like chickens are a delicacy, because there's another person in that same area that talks about like, hey, like chickens are so rare, kids don't even call each other chicken anymore. And then then kind of pauses and goes, yeah, but like, chickens are kind of a delicacy. So I guess if you're calling someone a chicken, you're calling them a delicacy. And then pauses again, and it's like, well, maybe it would be nice to be called someone delicacy when it's once in a while. So like, there's an absurdity there, but kind of like, the earnestness of like, man, I miss being a kid walking along, dropping feathers over the railing, and I can never have that again. But maybe if I think on it fondly, that means that I enjoyed it to the fullest, and that's not so sad, like. Yeah. As the world is just like falling apart around these people, and the person that rules them is hardly a person anymore. They are more machine than man. They're just 6 stomachs and a hand and a chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, that was...
And a head. Like, the head's there too, but like...
I'm not necessarily convinced. Maybe it was just me not paying attention, because Lord knows I missed a hell of a lot in this story, apparently. But I'm not necessarily convinced that the Saint of the 6 Stomachs is the head honcho. Because, like, the dude's like, the first soldier's like, oh, the boss says you don't have anything, but your only way out is pleasing the Saint of the 6 Stomachs. I guess I just never made those dots connect. But
I mean, I guess I interpreted that as that there is a hierarchy, but the Saint is at the top of it. So, like, the military, they have people they take orders from.
Sure.
Like, there are people, like, they're administrators. But the person in charge is the Saint. Because even the military guys, like, down below in the little ice palace with the dolphins smoking hookah, they kind of act like they're unemployed. Like, they don't really have anything to do. Like, they're just kind of hanging around, waiting for the end of the world.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. Isn't that, like, in the prison section where you find the secret area? Or
yes, I think that's where that is.
Secret area in quotes, because you still find those people.
Yeah.
That was a very strange section. This entire game is very strange, but in a good way.
It's so strange. Yeah, it makes no damn sense. Compels me, though.
100%.
I was very compelled by this game. I was just like, wow, like, this world is, like, some of this dialogue, super bizarre. What is going on? But what? Like, it's not, it just comes together in a way that's like, oh, thought was really put into this. It's not just absurd for absurdity's sake. Like, there's a story underlying all of this. It just doesn't necessarily matter to the player character, because you're just trying to get out, and all you could do is fry eggs.
Yeah, and you wouldn't necessarily care about the world that you're inhabiting if you're trying to escape it.
Yeah, because your player character has had a life there before. Clearly, your player character does not like the life there, tried to leave. They stripped them for parts. So
yeah, it's very weird. The soundtrack is so fucking good, though.
The soundtrack is so good. It's so good.
Just top-notch, what, jazzy, loungy sort of thing? It depends on the area you're at, but
yeah,
it's a vibe.
it's so, it's such a vibe. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like chill, but like, it's so good.
It is very good. And
it's the kind of music that you could just listen to like during the day. Like, it just, it's so good.
Yeah, it's definitely there to get you into a very specific mindset of not getting super frustrated because that fucking cockroach leaped off your pan for the 30th time in a row.
Yep, it's chill beats to flip eggs to, and cockroaches, and beer bottles, apparently, and cigarettes, and tins of fish.
And the meat chunk. Can't forget that.
And the meat chunk, and one pizza.
Oh, right, there was a pizza.
I forgot about the frozen pizza. Yeah, there's one frozen pizza. glasses of water. Well, glasses of ice, bringing the ice to room temperature.
And if any of the water, or if any of the liquid ice, I think, drips out, that's a lost condition. You have to try again. Yep.
You lose. You drip any beer out of that pan, you lose.
Yeah. There was a lot of frustration to be had. But if you are interested in the challenge of this one mechanic, it does have like a sandbox mode. And you can make any challenge that you want. So.
And some of the achievements are tied to different challenges as well. If I can do it, anyone listening can do it.
Including the challenges, I think I spent like 3 hours total playing this game. Not including going back and refamiliarizing myself with the game for the podcast.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a very short game. There's only so much you could do with one mechanic like this, but I think they executed it very well and expanded it to the point where it does make a full game out of one mechanic.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special, honestly. Because, you don't see a whole lot of one mechanic games nowadays.
Yeah.
And
they keep it fresh with like different challenges, not just the things in the pan, but like the fishmonger at the fish market. He's like, "Oh, teach me what you know," and then your controls are inverted.
Oh yeah.
So you have to do the challenge with inverted controls, and it's like, oh no, I just kind of got used to it. Normal.
Oh, that was.
So they're like little challenges like that through the game.
I'm so glad that they only did that once, though. I don't think I could have done multiple challenges of that one.
Yeah, I think the developers were aware that this was a challenging mechanic, and that changing it up too much was going to be a little frustrating. So they just add in a special challenge here and there, like flipping the egg into the whale's mouth, for example. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I was just like, I keep missing. I could cook the egg just fine, but like, why can't I hit the mouth? Just get in there.
I could not. There were more eggs at the bottom of that ocean than there were like fish in the sea. For how many times I tried. Yeah. Oh my god.
The underwater ecosystem is eating very, very well.
Yeah, they're feasting on egg. Lots of egg.
Yep. That's a good source of protein.
100%. Though, okay, there was one thing that you mentioned, like they call chicken a delicacy, but you're cooking all of these eggs, and I feel like in each zone there's always a chicken in a cage or multiple chickens in cages. Mm-hmm. So they seem to be fucking everywhere.
Yeah, but the Saint of Six Stomachs doesn't allow people to eat them without his say-so.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, they're highly controlled, so they're around everywhere, and you are cooking the eggs, but it's sort of like, oh, you are cooking the eggs with the blessing of the Saint of Six Stomachs. So, not everybody gets a taste of the chicken or the eggies.
They imply a lot of world in this, but they don't actually flesh out much of it. And I think that's actually a pretty good call on their part.
Yeah, it leaves it up to the player to kind of connect the dots and be like, oh, okay, interesting. And like if you talk to everybody, you get more pieces to the puzzle to try and put it back together than you don't talk to, or you just talk to like the minimum amount of people. You don't get as much information about the world. Yeah,
but with the cooking as the only mechanic, I feel like talking to everybody is almost the other fun part. At least to me.
I mean, absolutely. I would agree. Like talking to people is, maybe even more fun than the mechanic, just to see what they're going to say. Like I say like, oh, well, you could just talk to the minimum amount of people, with an idea that like different people are going to come into a game with different things. Like they're going to come at it a different way. So somebody maybe isn't having as much fun with the dialogue, which, feels sad, but you should still talk to everybody because it's fun.
Yeah, they're going to say some weird shit. And if you're into absurdist humor, then this game's going to be right up your alley. To put it bluntly.
Yeah.
Because, the other character that really stuck with me was one of the soldiers liked sitting on the toilet, except for it was really just crouching on the toilet seat.
Yeah.
That guy really stood out to me. I think he's in the sizzle reel of it, but it's really funny.
He's like, I have a girlfriend, she's Polish. I tried to tell her the truth, but I chickened out. I'm trying to go cold turkey. but it's so hard.
Yeah, like, what does that mean? What is any of this?
Wait, why are you like that in the first place? Yeah, toilet guy was...
There's just so much weirdness in this. And it's the strange attractor, to put it bluntly. If you've heard any of my side quests, I usually talk about the strange attractor. The strange attractor is just being just mind-shatteringly weird. And yeah, that's the strange attractor for this game, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like the prison is full of people that have parts replaced with like mechanical parts.
Yeah,
but
most of them have robots' heads.
Yeah, and you're still
have like human heads.
And you're still feeding them eggs, despite them not having mouths anymore, which is always weird to me. But yeah, very strange.
The two prisoners that are trying to synchronize poop, which is unsettling to basically everyone around.
That's fucking brilliant. That's the type of humor you're in for. Anyway, can you think of anything that would make this game better?
No, I think it's great just the way it is. It has difficulty modifiers. The music's great. Just strange dialogue. I think it stays, like, I think the length that it is perfect for its mechanic. Not only that it's just one mechanic, but that it's like, you know, a kind of, you know, quappy, semi-frustrating mechanic, especially if you don't have really good, like, control over, like, you know, the mouse, like I do. Like, I'm not sure how I succeeded so well at this game. My eye-hand coordination is pretty bad. I think it's the right length. It's got wacky dialogue. The world has enough information about it that you could form ideas about it, but it's not over-explained. Yeah. Things to think about, which is my favorite. Weird vibes.
Yeah, it's got that in spades. It lets the player read into it and kind of come to their own conclusions, which is something I'm a huge sucker for. The only thing that I could think of for improvements would be to lessen the delay on the pan. Because, as you said, Devin, there's a lot of issues with pan movement, right? And some of it's hand-eye coordination, but there's also, like, maybe a quarter-second delay of moving the mouse to the pan reacting. And I feel like that was what was messing me up so much when I tried it. I would like to kind of see this mechanic done in VR, personally. I'm not a huge VR player.
Ooh.
I get nauseous super easily when I play VR games, but I feel like if you were to continue this, doing a VR title would be the logical place to take it, just with the handle.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of. Which is really silly, but...
Yeah, I don't know that I noticed a delay in the pan, but, like, my coordination's not the greatest, so that's one of those things that I you know, if it's pretty slight, I wouldn't maybe notice. But that could explain why sometimes it was a little frustrating for me, if true. But I agree. Like, putting it in VR, that would be... that would really be a test of your reflexes.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't have to have that delay in to make the pan feel like it has weight to it, which is the real reason why they put in that quarter-second, half-second, whatever delay. You can feel it when the player walks, too, which is really frustrating, especially if you grew up playing a lot of first-person shooters with Twitch reaction times, like me. So, yeah, that was why I noticed it so acutely, because if it doesn't have the Twitch reactions, it's always going to hurt. But in service of the game, I think that's why they did it. I just would like the option to cut that down a little bit. But that's literally the only constructive criticism I would even potentially have for this game. I don't think it really needs it, but that's a player thing, not necessarily a game thing. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this?
I don't know. I think I've shared all my thoughts. I think this is a lovely little game. I really enjoyed my time with it, and it was fun. And it's kind of different from what I normally play. Not like story-wise, but like just like, oh, it's little, you have to be coordinated a little bit to do this.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, I'm always looking for games that have that like kind of weird, like what I call the Morrowind vibe, where it's just a little strange, a little different, and this definitely had that feel. So it was a lot of fun to play. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's off the main path for most games, honestly. Oh, I forgot to go into a little bit of details, but even though it was in the Game Jam for 2023, it didn't actually win any prizes so far as I noticed. But it makes me interested to see what games actually did win prizes in that jam. But anyway, yeah, I love this game too. The music is what keeps me going back to it because it's just so good. It's almost up to Sulaco levels of just music you can have on for whatever occasion. Sulaco's soundtrack just squeaks it out by a hair, but that's just because Sulaco's a different type of dystopian future game that we might talk about at some point in the future. But yeah.
In the future.
Yeah, it's a great game. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I suppose we can call it here. Where can people find you online?
I am kind of a hermit online right now. You can find me on Blue Sky. I am Mereward, Merewyrd. And yeah, that's currently where I'm at. Maybe that'll change later. Who knows? That's me.
Fair enough.
It's been a while since we've done this.
Fair. I think our season 3 is going to be over 2 or 3 years, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, I guess people can find me at, well, let me rephrase that. People can find me online through various social media as JC Sirron, JCSIRRON. I also do a number of side quests here on the Adventure Mechanics, so if you want to listen to me talk about anything game design or game development related, reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk about game design or games in general. But with that being said, we've been the Adventure Mechanics, and we will continue to be the Adventure Mechanics. I'm Chandler.
I'm Devin.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
The intro and outro music are excerpts from Plinian, retro gaming version, royalty free. Music provided and produced by Lone Peak Music. Link in the description.